With a view to the Olympics around the corner, very happy to say we have an Olympic silver medalist on the show, Annalise Murphy. You're very welcome. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
No, thanks for joining us. I guess, is this a busy time now, or does everything kind of calm before the storm? Your training calms down. Where are you in your preparation?
I just actually finished my last training camp with my international training partners. So I flew home today, and now it's just the countdown until I fly to Tokyo.
Okay.
So just training at home for the next couple of weeks before I go.
And will that be fairly hardcore training, or just kind of ticking over type stuff?
Just like a mix of like ticking over, doing quite a bit of heat training, so that when I get to Japan, I'm not like, the Irish person floored with the heat. And I think the most important thing is to kind of keep it simple over the next 2 weeks. Like, I'm not going to be able to do anything major, like, and trying to do something major would be probably the worst thing I could do.
Yeah.
So just, make sure that I don't go crazy or do anything too mad, and I guess try and enjoy the last few weeks leading up to the Olympics.
What does heat training entail?
I've actually been doing quite a lot this year, but it's basically just exercising in a hot and ideally humid room, and then just trying to get your body used to exercising at that temperature, which is it's not very pleasant. It's you just sweat a lot. I go a particularly nice color purple, and it's just to try and get yourself as sort of used to the heat as possible, so that then when I'm competing in Japan, that isn't hopefully going to be something that affects me. It'll feel like normal to be having sort of a high heart rate in hot weather.
So, like, do you go into a sauna? Do you just turn up the temperature in the house and go nuts? What's the plan of attack?
Yeah, so what I've done is one of the small rooms in the house, I turn the heating on in that, and then I got my mum to text all her friends asking if anyone had those like Dyson really hot heater things. So it was great. Loads of people text back. They were like, yeah, of course you can borrow them. So I've got 2 of those Dyson hot air things that heat up to 37 degrees, and just make the room really hot. Get a bucket of boiling water, put that in the room to try and add some humidity.
Right.
And and then basically I think everyone thinks I'm a bit of a lunatic, but
wow.
It's sometimes I'm like, is this actually going to help at all, or am I just being an idiot here?
I thought you were going to tell me, we have a scientifically approved room at the high performance unit that we go into and use. No, it's your mum's mates and their Dysons, and you turn up the temperature and go hell for leather. That's basically what you're doing here.
That's pretty much it, yeah. High tech.
Hey, look, if it works, it works. If it works, it works.
Exactly.
For sure.
Yeah.
So, London 2012, 4th, heartbreaking, I'm sure, in many ways. 5 years ago, 2nd in Rio, a silver medal around your neck. I'm sure gold would be nice, but it's a medal, and that's a big deal and a huge achievement. How do you feel about Tokyo then? Do you set targets for yourself, or what's your approach now?
Yeah, I think in Rio, just to be honest, I would have taken any medal. It was just the relief that I didn't finish 4th again. That was the biggest thing. And of course, when I look back and went over the final race, I realized that I kind of threw the gold medal away, which was a little bit frustrating looking back. But when you put so much effort in, just to come away with any medal is pretty much like the best thing that's happened to me in my life. And I'm going to Tokyo to try and win a gold medal. I've been very close to it at the last 2 Olympics, and I want to give it another shot and see if I can finally do it. It's really hard though. There's so many good girls that I'm competing against,
yes.
And they're not going to make it easy for me. I have to be at my best in 4 weeks' time, and I have to hope that that I make less mistakes than them, and that it all comes together at the right time. So it's fun and stressful. I'm kind of a mixture of both. Like, some days I'm like, I'm so excited for the Olympics. Other days I'm like, there's not enough time to get ready. I need another year.
Winning gold medal hard at the Olympics. One of the headlines we can take from that point you make there. I'm sure it bloody is. It's interesting there, the use of your language. So you said in the medal race at Rio, you made too many mistakes. And then you said with a view to Tokyo, it's about not making too many mistakes. So, you know, certain sports, it's about going out there and doing something special and really producing something. You're almost framing these races as don't do anything stupid first and foremost. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, exactly. Like sailing, it's such a complex sport. Like nobody is ever going to have a perfect race.
Okay.
Like everyone's going to make mistakes because you're dealing with so many variables. You're dealing with your boat, other people's boats, the wind, the waves, clouds, currents, tides. There's too many variables. If you go out trying to be perfect, you're just going to completely fail because you're going to realize that you'll make mistakes straight away. But it's really about who can sort of minimize the mistakes and make the least amount of mistakes and just sail a really smart series because it's over a week and you have to, it's not about winning every race, although that would be really nice, but it's about being consistent over that week and being the person who deals the best with everything that I guess nature throws at you.
Yes, and it's 10 races and a medal race, so it's grueling, and as you said, it's not just a one-off race. Give us an example of a mistake, because we're talking here about trying to look out for mistakes. What would be a fairly routine mistake that anybody might make at this level?
Just something simple, like you don't see where the stronger wind is on the race course because you get too wrapped up with what's happening in your boat and the boats around you, and you miss out on there being much more wind on the other side of the race course. And that can be that's a mistake that people make all the time, but it's about trying to be aware of everything that's going on around you and not get just focused on your boat and your little group that's around you. It's like always looking at the entire race course, and that's something that I've really been trying to work on because it can be very easy. You forget, you get into a race with the boat beside you and you're like, oh, I'm going to beat them, and you forget about the fact that there's 20 boats going in the opposite direction heading to more wind.
Okay, so it's seeing the wind about keeping an eye on what the other boats are doing.
It's about keeping an eye on what the other boats are doing, looking for clouds on the horizon, looking for darker patches of water. It's about trying to be always looking for what's going to happen next and trying to predict what's going to happen next. Okay. Hopefully you get it right, and then you're the person who sees it first, gets to that thing first, and does it better in the race.
And so, sorry, I appreciate in sailing terms, you're talking to a child here. I've no concept. So when you say the darker water or the clouds, you're trying to get to them. Like, is darker water good, bad, indifferent?
Exactly. Yeah, darker water is good. It's something that you're always looking at. You're trying to read what the wind looks like in the water, and years and years of sailing experience, you're able to tell where there's more wind and less wind. It's even you'll be able to, anyone who even doesn't sail, they'll see the sea and they'll see that there's dark patches, which is where there's a gust of wind coming, and those other patches that are lighter where there's less wind. So you're always looking for these little sort of advantages on the race course because everyone's going pretty much the same speed. So it's how you find that extra little bit of wind to go a bit faster than your competitors.
Okay. I mean, it's fascinating. Do sailors in your category tend to get better then with age? And if so, is there a peak age? Because I'm sure there's a balance between experience and being able to read the water, read the wind, read the conditions, race strategy. There's a balance between that. And then I'm sure this is very physically demanding as well. And that might go into decline at a certain age. So is there a sweet spot?
I think the average sailing medalist is sort of 32 maybe, or it used to be 32.
Okay.
So it's a sport that rewards experience because it's, as I said, it's like who can make the least mistakes. Yeah. And the longer you're in the sport, the more mistakes you make. But that's what I'm saying. There can be young people come through, like in the London Olympics, I was only 22 and I was, young, sort of no worries, full of confidence. Yeah. Like everything seemed easy. I was just going off instinct. I wasn't thinking about anything. Well, it's now that I feel like I'm much older and wiser. I'm like one of the older girls in the fleet, but I'm still, all the girls that I'm racing against are pretty much the same ones that I was racing against in Rio and in London. So it's a lot of the same competitors that I'm going to be lining up against again.
So you're a good age now.
I'd like to think so. Yeah, it's I think I'm also like sort of that I feel like I'm at like sort of the fittest and strongest that I've ever been in the boat, which is great. I guess the last year having, you know, an entire year to just do consistent training without having to be traveling all the time, going to events and training camps, just spending time at home and, you know, training really hard, sort of 6 days a week without having to have rests because you're tired from competing, really helped me and has made me a better athlete. So I don't know if this will, I'll have to find out in 4 weeks if it's all going to be the right thing. But at the moment, I'm feeling pretty good about it all.
Great. And so I presume there must be certain waters that suit different strengths, or maybe it's the same everywhere. So do you know if you're well suited to what's waiting for you out in Tokyo? Have you been out there much?
Yeah. So I love windy weather. I guess it's having, you know, grown up in Ireland. Sure, it's pretty much windy the entire time. Although maybe not through the summer, but like
feels like
winter
it is.
time, you're
Feels
just,
like it is all the time. Yeah.
It's just windy the whole time. So that's what I've grown up with,
Okay.
and I love it. And I'm tall, strong, and fit, which is something that really helps in sailing when it's windier. It also means that I'm at a little bit of a disadvantage when it's lighter, and light winds are harder for me. I have to be sailing the boat really well to you know, to do well when it's light winds. Well, when it's windy, that's when I'm just enjoying it the most. Like I go out and like I have a laugh, and I think that's why I do so well when it's windy. It's, you know, I don't feel like there's any pressure. I'm just out there sailing a boat fast and having a good time. But in Japan, I was there in 2019 for a month, and the conditions were, I was there and I was like, I think I can win a gold medal here. And it's like this windy, wavy venue. But the way that the global climate is at the moment, you don't know what the weather is going to be like. If the Olympics had been on last year, there would have been actually hardly any wind. I think it was raining for the entire time of the Olympics and very little wind.
Right.
So just global climate is it's changed. There isn't so much predictability as to seasons anymore. And as a sailor, I'm seeing that all the time, going to venues where normally they'd say, this is the wind, it always is here. And suddenly in the last sort of 5-6 years, it's started to be much less predictable. So I'm going to Tokyo just ready for anything. And that's the sort of, you know, you can't go there hoping that it's going to be strong winds and waves, and then it isn't, and my whole world comes crashing down. Yes, so I'm more going there going, if it's light and, you know, really light winds, I was like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to attack it. And that's sort of my attitude going into it.
I guess it has to be. And it's the nature of all outdoor sports, be it something like sailing or golf. Some golfers love the tough conditions like a Padraig Harrington, others can't stand them. So I guess, like you said, it's almost about not being demoralised or beaten if the weather conditions aren't to your preference. That's interesting you're saying, like, even the weather has become even more volatile just in the last 5-6 years. I mean, I don't want to turn this into a global warming conversation, but that's kind of striking development in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah, I think being a sailor, spending most of my time outside and dealing with the elements, like you do actually notice it, you know, it's and everywhere, you know, all over the world, you notice that like what has been normal for, you know, we'd spend a lot of time researching weather and weather patterns of venues so we can try and understand what might be, you know, what might work well at them. And those like weather patterns, you'll look back, you know, the past 20 years, and they actually don't mean so much anymore, because it's just, there's still, you know, you might get the odd day that it is similar, but it isn't the same. There isn't the same sort of predictability with the seasons that we've had in the past.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I guess you're at the cutting edge. I mean, the rest of us notice if there's flooding or if it's especially warm or especially cool, but those subtleties we wouldn't really be in touch with most of the time. So I was reading a piece you were making a point in the Irish Times that this may well be the last Olympics, that there are the World Championships in October, but Paris 2024 might be one step too far. And you were kind of making the point, look, I'm funded and everything, but this is not a job, this is a passion. I'm 31, I still live with my parents, you know. I'm giving up kind of not everything, but a lot of things to pursue this. So is that still your thinking, that there's every chance this could be your farewell?
I've had I've got to live my passion, and I don't regret it at all. But it can be really hard, and it can be lonely as well. I put so much pressure on myself to try and do well, and I think I just want to. I probably will hate living a normal life.
Let me tell you, Annalise, normal life's miserable too. Don't worry.
The thing is, my life isn't miserable. Like I do love it, but there comes a point where some athletes are really good at finding balance, like sort of where they're able to have some kind of life outside of their sport. Well, I really struggle with that. I'm just all I care about is the Olympics and trying to do as well as I can in sailing in the Olympics, and I find it hard to focus on anything else. So there kind of comes a point where I'm like, this is like, I've got to have the most amazing sort of 20s and start of my 30s getting to do this sport, but it's time to like, that life doesn't need to be this intense for, at the end of the day, what's a game?
And could you not find more of a balance and still be very, very, very competitive? No. Ooh, I think we've lost Annalise. Oh, you're back. You're back. Sorry.
I'm back on. Sorry. I don't know what my phone did there. I think, I don't think I could find a balance, because I know what it's taken to finish 4th in London and 2nd in Rio. There wasn't the reason that I was able to do so well was because I gave everything for that. Okay. And like, I think that if I was to compromise that, I'd end up disappointed with probably both aspects. So I think this is like triple Olympian's pretty cool anyway, for someone who never even thought they'd get to go to one Olympics. So that's just, it's, I don't know, it'll be sad, but there's loads of great young Irish sailors coming up, and I'm definitely going to try and help them out and help them achieve their Olympic dreams. But there comes a point where you kind of want the next generation to go and get as much or more success than you have.
What have been the hardest things to give up, Annalise, or if there was, a temptation to have more of a balance, what would be the first things you would have liked to have worked into your life over the last 10 years?
Something that's really hard for me is that I'm like the wrong size for the boat. I'm too heavy all the time. So permanently in the back of my mind, I've been on, a diet since I was 18 so that I could be competitive in the boat. And it's really draining. It's it gets to the stage where I'm coming up to big competitions where I'll be afraid to go out for meals with family or friends because I don't know what's going to be on the restaurant menu, and I can't control that, and that will have an impact on my weight and my training and my whole mentality for the next sort of week. So just not being able to just live like a normal person and have to worry about food the entire time, and then just being able to go and I don't do whatever I want, go out for drinks with friends, stuff like that, things that I've just I've given up, and I don't regret giving them up, but I've I've had to live a pretty strict lifestyle for a long time. So
right.
They're just some of the things that
and they're
probably
they're quite constant as well. So it's not like you can kind of just go into like a boxer, go into camp for 2-3 months. It seems like it's a regular thing. And so how underweight are you in comparison to what you might be if you were just living, say, a bit more normally with your frame?
I don't know. Like, I might end up being the same weight, but I wouldn't have that same pressure.
Sure.
It's like this pressure that I have the entire time to try and be a certain weight that is so hard, and that's and because sailing is such a mental sport, if I feel in a bad place with how much I weigh, then it can affect how I sail on the race course and my decision making. And it's just it'll be pretty nice to be able to go out with friends and get pizza for dinner and not actually be able to do that.
And so do you still love sailing, you know, you do enough of anything, you do it too much, you can overload on it and you want to kind of get away from it. I mean, there's lots of sports people who, when on the day they finish their sport, they're done. I'm parking that. Will you still be taking to the water in 10 years' time, do you suspect?
Yeah, definitely. Like, I absolutely love the sport. I sure, when I have free time, I go out and I sail boats with my parents or my sister and brother as well. So it's it's just something that, if you sail, you can never, I think, not do it anymore, because it becomes so part of you, just getting out and getting to, make boats go fast. And yeah, I can never imagine that that I'd like ever want to stop. But I'm so competitive about everything that I do in life. I'm sure that I'll end up either doing competitive racing and sailing, or in some other sport I'll want to like try and like challenge myself. So I don't think I'm gonna. Yeah, I definitely don't want to ever stop sailing and never see a boat again.
It'd be interesting to see what you do with that competitive outlet, you know, or for a competitive outlet when you get past Tokyo, and if you go into the World Championships or not. I mean, I'm not. Look, I don't know enough about your life clearly, but I wouldn't put the mortgage on talking to you in a year's time and you being like, yeah, you know, I just thought Paris 2024 wasn't that far away, only a 3-year cycle, and I'm back on it.
This is what all of the like the boys on the sailing team, they're like, you're gonna be back, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm like Steve Redgrave. I'm like, shoot me if I'm back in a boat. No, but it's definitely, I'm just really just focusing on, Tokyo, just trying to make the most of these last the training period leading up to the games, and then the actual games. So that's the focus for the moment.
And so, based on your previous 2 experiences, what will be the setup when you get out to Tokyo? I don't know to what extent COVID may change everything, but like, will you have your own room, or do you tend to share with someone? Will you be pretty sociable, or do you like to kind of withdraw and stick on headphones and think about things? Or what's going to be your modus operandi out there?
Yeah, well, my idea of like a nightmare is being in like a hotel quarantine for 2 weeks, not being able to see anyone.
Okay.
I just don't think I could do it. But we're going out 2 weeks before a competition, and we're going to go to the Team Ireland holding camp for a few days before we go to Enoshima, the sailing venue. And then there's a massive amount of restrictions with the playbook. You're pretty much, if you're not sailing, you're in your hotel room.
Right.
So it's but as I say, I'm like, at least we're doing an outdoor sport, guys.
Yeah.
We get to go out sailing, and we're not like in an indoor arena, and then so moving from a hotel room to an arena. It's definitely going to be a different experience to London and Rio, where in London I'd rented a house in Weymouth for 6 months before the Olympics. So I was living in the house that I'd rented for the Olympics. Wow, so it was nearly like I was at home. And then in Rio, I was staying in an Airbnb just across the road from Marina Gloria with my training partner, Sarah, and Kate, my sports psych. So just the 3 of us in this little apartment, just so very different games experiences. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to going out to the holding camp and sort of seeing the other Irish athletes. Like, there's over 100 Irish athletes qualified for these Olympics, which is class. And I'm really excited. I actually think we're going to do really well at these Olympics. So I feel excited as like an Irish fan and spectator as much as I'm going as an athlete myself.
And you know the way, so this is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I did read it's 10 races and a medal race.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So is this incredibly grueling? Like, is this every bit as much a test of endurance as it is your racing skills, or is the schedule more manageable than it might sound?
No, it's really grueling, and it's the reason like why I do so much fitness training and strength training on top of all my sailing, because sailing it's a big endurance sport, and then also there's so much that you have to use your brain so much as well with decision making and where you want to go on the race course. So the less tired you can get through the event, the better your decision making is going to go as you keep on going. So it means that you can be sailing as hopefully as well as you were on the first day, on the 5th day, well, those, some of my competitors that maybe won't be as fit as me, they'll get more tired as the event goes on and make more mistakes. And that's my plan.
Yeah.
Plan of attack.
I get the impression from talking to you here, I don't suspect many of your competitors have trained as hard as you have physically.
Yeah, I don't think so. They do train hard, but I definitely think I can go into the Olympics going, I don't think anyone's put in the level of preparation that I have. Like, it's one thing that I do find hard is I work so hard, and then sometimes you really don't get rewarded for it, particularly in sailing, and that can be hard. I'm just like, I'm working so hard,
Yes.
but I'm still doing crap. What's going on?
I had a bloody heat chamber in my house, and she didn't, and she's after catching the wind there.
Exactly, yeah. That's but it's I guess that's sailing. That's why I love it, because there's everyone can have their day, and but it's about trying to have the week.
Must give you a great peace of mind though. Like, it's a nice thing to be able to, even if it's not true, even if everyone's training the same, but I mean, even if you believe that, and I suspect you have good reason to believe it, that must be a nice thought if you're having some momentary doubts when you're out there and the pressure's on and you really want to do well. It's a good thing to be able to tell yourself, look, Annalise, you couldn't have trained harder, and there's no one out here who's trained as hard as you, so you're already off to a really good start here. So some deep breaths, and let's not get too nervous.
Yeah, it's kind of how I'm feeling. And I think I was both going into London and Rio, I had this sense that I felt like I couldn't have done anything more going into these Olympics. I feel as prepared as I can be, and it's like a sense of relief. You're like, oh, it's finally time to to put all the work to use, to see if it was worth it or not. And I'm starting to get that feeling again going to Tokyo, which is pretty cool. It's it's at the end of the day, this is going to be it, and just have to go and do my best, and hopefully my entire self-worth isn't going to be based on winning a gold medal, and I'm not just going to be like so heartbroken I never talk to anyone again afterwards if it doesn't go my way.
well on that, I mean, is that a possibility? How much of the next 20-30 years of your life will be easier to live if you've a certain medal around your neck or not?
I don't like. I think at the end of the day, something that I have to remember going into them is that, I've got such a great family, great friends, everyone supports me, and they're not going to suddenly stop loving me because I haven't won Olympic gold medal.
It would be harsh. I grant you that. Yeah.
You're out of the house.
The heat chamber goes too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's something that I dream about, even daydreaming about the entire time. Olympic gold medal, it means so much to so many people. I think that Olympic gold medal dream is what gets people to go and do this horrible training and live kind of these lives where you're just focused on your sport and nothing else. And yeah, it would be probably the most amazing moment of my life. But it's at the moment it's still a dream at the moment. So just have to keep it all together for the next 4 weeks.
Well, listen, oh man, I hope you do it. Really, best of luck. Give them hell out there. I hope it's windy, rainy, miserable. I hope it's the worst conditions of all time. I hope everything goes your way, and hopefully we're all, we're seeing you on the Late Late Show and getting a parade down Dublin in a few months' time and all that kind of stuff. So, Annalise Murphy, silver medalist at Rio, and heading out to Tokyo for hopefully a very successful 10 races and a medal race. Annalise, thanks so much. Thanks so much for coming on, and like I said, best of luck out there.
No worries. Thanks for having me.